welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I am your happy, healthy Dr. Alisha. I'm Dr. Alisha Liggett, and I'm here today with my dearest, one of my oldest friends, Kelly Chandler, the beautiful.
Hey,
She's looking
it's
just
okay.
like a fresh rose today, a fresh flower. And we
For
are going to
you,
be talking
for
today
you,
about
dear.
breastfeeding. Joining us, Kelly is, of course, graciously sharing her story today as part of our storytelling campaign because we really do want to try to destigmatize sharing our stories, our experiences, whether they're positive or they're negative, as we interact with healthcare to reduce bias and internalized racism, fear. So it's National Maternal Health, Black Maternal Health Week. We are going to be talking about all things maternal health this week. So you'll be seeing a lot of me, and I'm sure lots of buzz in the news as well and on social media about issues relating to our health.
Yes.
But breastfeeding is one of those very important topics. So I would love to hear your story around this because I know you have a story. We all have a story. I have my baby who's now
Yes. Hiya, baby Anaya.
6 weeks old. Yes. She's 6 weeks, 7 weeks. Girl, I have the mommy brain.
Oh
I can't even keep
my
track.
gosh.
What
That
made you
time. So,
decide first? What made you decide to breastfeed? Like, how did you arrive at that decision, knowing that you hadn't really had any of those influences?
I have some food allergies. They developed over time, and I thought that, well, maybe I could help my baby have more of a resistance and more of a natural immune system to be able to like mitigate any type of allergies or whatever on her own. And then the basis of that would be built around breast milk. And then that would be the best way to give her that defense or fortify her health is to start her off in that way.
Mhm.
And so I was like, okay, I can do this, we'll see how it goes. And now, the only other information I had been given about breastfeeding was from a coworker who relayed her experience because she came to me and was like, all right, do you want to know? I breastfed too. Like she asked me what my feeding plan was going to be for my child, which at the time I thought was like, well, I don't mind talking about it, but it wasn't something that other people were necessarily like, open and comfortable talking about. It wasn't like normal conversation. These are now conversations I think would be very, very normal. Like opening up and forming communities around mothering mothers, versus just like the way a lot of it is very centered around these precious babies. Like we too are precious, and we have to keep that mindset and keep ourselves also centered in the experience as mother, and also centering our child as child instead of like giving over everything to the child, because who's going to parent the child? Who's going to mother the child if the mother is not taken care of too? So she basically got me started off on into that whole experience of being mothered as a mother. And of course, my mom, who, oh my God, she was literally my backbone through the entire process as well. And so I thought that I could mainly rely on the medical system and infrastructure to give me that information. As a lot of us do, we do rely on it. Yeah, and it's like we have to go back to, I don't want to say necessarily our roots, but it's okay to follow tradition. It's okay to ask questions of anybody who has a background or familiarity with it, and not necessarily let me find a professional in this field, because knowledge and experience doesn't always come from people who have like a mile long credentials and stuff like that. And I know you are very credentialed, dear, and you are very knowledgeable, so you have it all.
Not necessarily,
but
it took me a while to arrive at this point. I mean,
yeah,
I would say a small fraction of what I know today I actually learned in medical school and residency. So
right. And so that
much of that has come from experience, listening to patient stories,
right.
and really being there on that journey with them.
Right, exactly. And leaving yourself open to that. So
And
and
also, just to add to one thing that you were saying, where it's important to kind of seek counsel in those individuals those people who've been there, who've done that,
Yes.
to really share
Mm-hmm.
their experience.
Mm-hmm.
Also, just to add to that, super important to look to our communities also, because I
Yes.
think also people tend to, whenever there's an issue or a problem
Yeah.
that arises or a question that they have, the first person they think about is their doctor or
That's
their
right.
medical professional. And that's
That's right.
often not the best person to ask, right?
Right.
That's not the
Mm-hmm.
best person to support you in your
Yeah.
journey, the type of support that you need. I think that sometimes there's a misconception about what we're really capable of,
Mm-hmm.
as medical professionals, in terms of what we provide, in terms of like that care. Yes, we can give you counsel, but in terms of the type of support and the care that you need, sometimes, people are just not either available for that, or they don't have the skills to really,
Yeah.
especially doctors, because we're not really trained, outside of like pediatrics or
Yeah.
even obstetrics. But my obstetrician didn't really tell me anything about how to breastfeed. She just said breastfeed. Um,
Right. That
Pediatrician,
part.
same thing, just breastfeed.
Yeah.
Even before I became a mother as a family doctor, I would just say breastfeed, because I
Mm-hmm.
really hadn't had enough exposure to breastfeeding women.
Yeah.
To really be able to kind of sit there on a one-on-one, watch how they're feeding, and really help and adjust and provide support,
Right.
until I received that support and knowledge and education myself. So
Right.
that's also super important to remember. So yes.
Absolutely. I think, or even, they're saying breastfeeds. You're like, oh, this is easy. I'm going to give birth, and then
Hmm.
milk's just going to start coming out of my boobs. Like, this is going to be so easy.
Hmm.
No. And so I promised that if she had not like prepped me for that and told me about the amount of pain or certain things that would be normal, that would also be scary, I don't know that I would have been able to power through it, because I would have just thought, I'm doing this all types of wrong. Like, how am
Hmm.
I? The skin is coming off my nipples. Like, what did I do wrong? Like, but just like conditioning your body to a different kind of stress that it's never experienced before,
Hmm.
because little baby mouth was hurt. Okay, I just want people, let all new moms
Little
know. And
gums.
little gums, they clamp, they got a good grip.
So it
and
hurts
and it's
until
and
it
it's
doesn't,
normal.
right? It
That
hurts
part,
until it doesn't, and it
that
takes a
just
couple
like
of weeks.
labor. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it takes a
Just like
couple of
we're.
weeks for your skin to
Mm-hmm.
acclimate.
Mm-hmm.
Saliva is very acidic. So when you
Mm-hmm.
have that acid that's constantly coming in contact with your skin, plus the
Yeah.
trauma of the sucking,
Mm-hmm.
initially, it does, for those of us whose milk doesn't come in immediately, like for me,
Mm-hmm.
took 3.5 days. So like
Okay.
my baby's literally like,
Trying.
and like,
It's
ow,
so
ow,
crazy.
ow, ow,
Yep.
ow. Like
Yep.
literally when she would latch, I'd be like, "Holy Mother of God!"
Yep. I remember, girl, you scared me a flashback.
Well, I'm actively breastfeeding, so this is like literally etched into my very recent memory.
Yeah. Oh,
But it
well,
doesn't
you'll
hurt
get there.
anymore. It stops
Right.
after about 2.5, 3 weeks, when your
That's
skin is
right.
a little bit thicker and more resilient, and like you said, your body adjusts.
Your body adjusts.
You know that, right?
Yes, yes. And there, my lactation consultant, when she was just like, oh, you got a lot of milk and lucky baby. So what I'm gonna need for you to do is we're gonna suppress your supply. And I'm just like,
Mm.
what? Okay, that doesn't, I don't, okay, but she's a professional. So I
This was in
didn't,
the hospital?
this was in the hospital. Yeah, because
Okay.
she was just like, well, she's gonna have to, if she's nursing, and then we don't want to like basically over inundate, or I don't know. I don't even know where she came from with the I need to suppress my supply, but maybe she wouldn't be awake when I would necessarily be engorged. And instead of like teaching me how to pump and store milk,
Really? Or
yes, it would
manually
express.
express, yeah.
It was like, because I guess from her experience, she was thinking that I was going to be an exclusively nursing mom, like from the breast, which some moms are. Like, there are different styles. As unique as birth plans are, birth experiences are, thus are is the way your life is going to play out too. I was a working mom,
Mhm.
right? So I wasn't going to have to I wouldn't call it the luxury. I wasn't necessarily going to be able to stay at home full time with my nursing baby and be able to only nurse her directly from me. My mom was my caregiver for her while I was at work. And so I needed to be able to store milk. But by the time I was done with my maternity leave and suppressing my milk supply, because I'm following the advice of this lactation consultant who thinks that I'm only going to be nursing her directly from my breast, I had lessened my supply when I could
So
have
how
been
exactly did she tell you to do that?
by basically relaxing into being engorged instead of just releasing the milk.
Uh-huh.
Right. So then your body
Right.
naturally learns how to lessen the supply. Like
Right.
this, it's the whole nature of it is supply and demand.
Right.
The more you nurse, the more milk is made, the
Right.
less you do. And that's how you also wean yourself out of the experience as well.
Mhm.
So I followed her advice because this is my first time. It's my first baby. This is,
Mhm.
so, okay, this is what we're going to do. And then, a few months into it, when I don't have enough milk to store at home while I'm at work, I'm literally like running out of work at the end of the day trying to get her, whatever is in my boobs because my mom has run out of the supply for the day and my baby's still hungry because she's a growing baby.
Mhm.
And it was very, very stressful, which is literally the kryptonite to milk production, stress. And
Mhm.
so it was
Definitely.
downhill from there. By the time she was about 6 months, I was having to supplement with formula. So,
Mhm.
and by the time we got to 9 months, my baby weaned herself. She was just, I came home one day and she was like, nah, I'm good. Good. And if you know Billy, that's right on brand for
When
her.
was her first tooth? Because that's the other thing that's like, you got teeth, so I think we're done here.
She bit me one time. I gave her a look like, girl, you want to eat? We were good after that. She was like, um,
I love that
so
you say though that stress is like the kryptonite because literally after my first baby,
mhm,
I did mixed feeding the first time
mhm,
around because of the
yeah,
stress of the preeclampsia
mhm,
during my labor and also just the magnesium that they gave me, just the stress of being hospitalized and I was separated
right,
from my son for the first
mhm,
like 3 4 days, so that
yeah,
really kind of sabotaged my milk supply as well.
yep,
Plus, I
mhm,
just didn't have any support really. I had a
yeah,
doula, she was very helpful, but I
mhm,
think there were still a lot of questions. And I think because of who I am, because
yeah,
of like, I'm a physician and I should know what I'm doing.
yep, mhm,
And I didn't, and I was afraid to really say that. That's something
okay,
we definitely explored the second time around. Like,
yeah,
how is it that we as women of color can, seek help when needed,
that's
regardless
right,
of where we are in our lives, what profession we are, what we should know or ought to know um,
right,
as women or as mothers, that it's still okay to ask for help and
that's
to ask
right,
for support. So that's
that's
one
right,
very important lesson I learned the second
yeah,
time around. But as soon as I went back to work, which was after 4 months, um,
mhm,
my milk supply literally dwindled in like 3 days. It was like my stress level was back to where it was before. And I was like, well, there's really, I sit down to pump
yeah,
work and there's like literally nothing coming out. And I'm like, there's just no point. I mean, we just need to go to 100% formula because this isn't working.
right,
That was really unfortunate for me. And I think there were a lot of feelings of guilt. There were a lot of feelings of inadequacy around not
mhm,
being able to breastfeed my son exclusively,
yeah,
but also that I had stopped so early, like at 4 months.
mhm,
But I gave it a valiant effort, and of course, you have to learn to forgive yourself for that, and know
absolutely,
that your womanhood and your ability to be a good mom is not wrapped up in the fact that you could breastfeed or not breastfeed. I mean,
it
a
is
fed
not.
baby is the best, regardless of how you feed
That
them.
is right. That
Um,
is right.
Breastfeeding is amazing. If you're able to do that, it's a great experience.
Mhm.
But if you're not, it's okay too. I mean, as you said, motherhood is just like a journey, and
It
there's so many
is.
amazing aspects to it. Sorry.
Absolutely. The reason that I really wanted to share my story is because you that part you were saying about the guilt is
Mhm.
like did I do something wrong? Did I not do enough research? Did I not ask the right people? Did I not have all of this figured out enough in advance to have a plan B and a plan C and D and E and F and all, whatever, to make sure that my child is, and I think if we don't break ourselves out of the habit of learning how to forgive ourselves as moms and navigate more graciously
Mm-hmm.
with ourselves and the adjustments that we're going to have to make when things don't necessarily go to plan, this continues all the way up through when they're until they're adults, or when we decided to let them be adults. Because I know
Mm-hmm.
some people out there who grown and their parents still treat them like, you're always going to
Mm-hmm.
be you're always going to be your parents' baby. And when we're going to let go of like, well, that didn't go to plan, what did I do wrong? It's not that. And focusing on the fact that my baby is happy, my baby is healthy, like that's my goal.
Mm-hmm.
And if I can't do that through nursing, and now let me find the best formula for them. And then
Mm-hmm.
also being open enough to ask, like, are you is your baby bottle fed, or are you using formula and anything like that, so you can get like a good, you know cross section of what are people doing. Oh
Mm-hmm.
my gosh, people have so many different approaches to this.
Mm-hmm.
This works for them. I would have never thought that. Just, opening up your whole world to seeing like how diverse this whole process could be, even if you have so many
Mm-hmm.
things in common with another like family.
Mm-hmm.
And this one aspect can be so different. Just
Mm-hmm.
allowing yourself to accept your own uniqueness so
Mm-hmm.
that you can really like adjust the journey for what works for your family. Because that's what all that matters. I call them home cultures, and
Mm-hmm.
it's not necessarily like that people belong to a similar culture in general, but what works best in your home culture, because
Mm-hmm.
you can go down the block and everybody's house inside their home is going to be completely different. In this home, you don't wear shoes. In this home, we don't drink soda. In this
Mm-hmm.
home, we don't go to bed before midnight. Like everybody's house is completely different, and that works for them. They're happy, they're healthy, they're well adjusted. So thinking that same process, like I have many brothers and then many sisters-in-law, and I cherish the relationships that we've been able to build together through our mothering journeys. And so I have one sister-in-law, she nursed my nephew until he was 2,
Mm-hmm.
and
Wow.
from the boob.
Mm-hmm.
And it was extremely I wouldn't say she was not able to do a lot because she couldn't get very far from the
Yeah.
baby.
Uh-huh.
And so and I took a few notes and learned from her experience, like how do I have some freedom and also have my child's needs met and not feel like they're abandoned or whatever. And she was open with that experience to be able to talk to me about like how she managed it as well and what she would do differently. And then I
Mm-hmm.
have another sister-in-law who like saw herself as this nursing mom, and then she gets to it and she's just like, I don't like it.
Mm-hmm.
And overcoming her feelings of, is it okay that I don't like it?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I should. And I'm just like, do it works for you. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what's it going to be like for you and your baby if you're always unhappy?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it matters that you're happy and you're adjusted too. So I think
Yeah,
just,
I
yeah.
totally agree with that. I love that you said that everybody's individual. You should do what works for you and your family.
Mhm.
That's why I love the breast pump, because I think it provides a lot of latitude and flexibility for people who
Yes,
may not like, feeding from the breast, or it might be too painful, or for whatever reason,
absolutely.
they have to go back to work early, or
Hmm.
they need support through the night from family members and loved ones. So they have that ability
Absolutely.
to have stored milk, that kind of thing.
Hmm.
So yeah, I mean, I think you do really have to do what's best for you. And let's not forget that there are lactation lactation consultants, which are excellent, that you can always consult with.
Hmm.
If you run into trouble, I think, very early, usually in that first like week period, people tend
Yeah.
to, I found a lot of my patients just quit after that, because
Wow.
Yeah, because it just was painful, or they feel like there's
Mm-hmm.
not enough milk,
Mm-hmm.
and that's also all of those things. It's quite possible those things actually happen.
Right.
For me, this time around, like I said, my milk didn't come in for 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
My baby was jaundiced for a couple, for usually the third day she was turning a little yellow, but then the milk came in,
Okay.
and her bilirubin level was fine. But there's always that risk of, is my baby getting enough? Right? Are they
Yeah.
getting enough
Mm-hmm.
nutrition? It's also normal for infants to lose weight,
That's right. Yep.
100%
Mm-hmm.
of their weight in the first week of life. So, it's important, or I'm sorry, the first 2 weeks. So it's also important to know that your infant may lose a little bit of weight before they gain weight. And I think
Right.
for some moms, that can be very scary if you don't know. If you don't know that, and you're like, well, if there's not enough milk,
Absolutely.
I'm going to give formula because my infant, is losing weight, or they don't seem
That
like
part.
they're hydrated.
Right.
So it's
Mm-hmm.
always good to consult with someone to really
Mm-hmm.
kind of help you with those
Mm-hmm.
things, because I think there are definitely tricks of the trade to help with pain, to help with
Yes.
latch, to help with supply.
Yeah.
You just need somebody to tell you that. And if there's no one in your immediate family who can help with that, then you can certainly consult a lactation consultant. And also, many doulas are trained lactation consultants as well. So if
Yes.
you do have a labor doula or working with a
Mm-hmm.
postpartum doula,
Mm-hmm.
they can also help you with breastfeeding. So those are also
Right.
good resources. But
So you are completely almost kind of stationary until you become like a breastfeeding acrobat.
hmm
In the beginning, you're going to want everything you need within arm's reach,
hmm
to make sure that like once you sit down for your session or whatever, that you have, if you're going to read, if you're going to be on your phone, if you're going to be doing some work on your laptop or tablet or whatever, that is all within arm's reach. You ain't going nowhere, especially if you're using the support of to support a pillow or
hmm
anything else to
yeah,
support the baby.
get comfy.
You're gonna get comfy, and so don't just think, oh, well, let me go ahead and feed the baby, and then the baby's in position, and when the baby's milk drunk and they getting some rest, like you want to make sure you're comfortable enough to get some rest as the baby's resting too.
Hmm
After that good burp,
Yeah,
you want to get that burp
you want to
out.
have your birth cloth because you might get
Yes,
puked out.
absolutely.
That's one thing that
But
if you
yeah, and
want
then
all of your
another thing
clothes
is
covered
that
in
like
puke,
having,
I said, if you don't want
if
all of
you
your clothes
don't
covered
like,
in puke, you need a burp cloth. Don't forget that.
you absolutely do, but then also that's just a part of the thing. That's a part of the gig. You're gonna have puke on everything. I'm just saying. You're gonna think you're gonna be leaving the house looking so cute, and then it's gonna be this little. But I didn't even. How did that even get there? It's coming.
You know what's the best?
Um,
Puke in your hair. You're like, what, hey, dang.
Absolutely unavoidable unless you have a perma ponytail, like right here. That's it. It's
Yeah.
a wrap. It's a wrap. But also, so the having your, I don't want to call it like your plan, but your support network for
Mhm.
your
Yes.
feeding process, right?
Mhm.
So um if you want other people feeding the baby,
Mhm.
as a working mom, my baby must eat while I'm at work,
Mhm.
so my mom is responsible for that. Having that person or that support network in the process as early as possible, because babies can sometimes become very creatures of habit. They're like, I want my mom feeding me my milk, like
Mhm.
that's what I want. You do that and then think after maternity leave you're going to leave the baby and go on, the baby's going to be like, no, this ain't it, it's only 50%, this is the milk, but this is not my mom.
Mhm.
So you want to make sure that you're familiarizing the baby with the different types of feeding,
Mhm.
whether that, for
And
me it
just
was my mom,
if they feed from a bottle, because some
and and
infants don't,
and that part too,
take
that part
some
too.
time to transition from the
Exactly.
bottle. Yeah.
Right. So start your transition if you're going to need help, or if more people are going to be participating in the process, so you're not stuck like my sister-in-law with her baby attached to her boob for 2 years.
Everywhere she goes.
Oh my gosh. So that is it's a transition period. It's not going to be like, oh, I'm going back to work tomorrow and y'all will be fine. Like, and then put in that pressure on the other person to feel like they're also now feeling because I can't get the baby to nurse.
Mhm.
Um, Making sure that you have like your smell and leaving your shirt with that
Mhm.
person. And I know that there are some, we're in the tail end of a pandemic, or and some people are like forever working from home and have that. I'm so excited for so many people that they're now allowed to have that experience, because like America's like one of the last countries, or is the last country, to not really have a significantly lengthy enough stay at home for moms if they're going to be working. So that a lot of people will be able to stay longer than 6 or 8 or 12 weeks at home with their baby to continue that process. And I'm very, very excited and happy for them that they can do that. But also as a bonding experience for the other parent or the other caregivers of the baby, to involve them in that process as well. Like, I'm a full advocate of like trying to help the baby nurse from a bottle. So you can do that if you're still going to be using your milk too. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let me see. What is it that I wish somebody would have told me?
Yeah.
I think the nipple care is very important. I
Yeah,
think
absolutely.
sometimes we forget that with the breastfeeding, that you will develop dry, cracked nipples, and it's
Hmm.
super important to take care of them. There's so
Absolutely.
many wonderful creams out there,
Hmm.
and ointments that you can use that are non-toxic to the infant.
Hmm.
Put on your nipples after each feed to protect them and keep them, same size, so that same size, shape, and also texture, so they don't get rough, crusty, and painful. Um,
Yeah.
I went to the doctor recently, and my doctor was like, "It doesn't even look like you're breastfeeding. Your nipples look great." I was like,
Oh, that's a
"Yeah,
great compliment. Look at that whole landscape changes. So what's the compliment when you're a mom?
yes."
But
So,
yes.
that's one thing I would say, is
Mhm.
that definitely have your skin regimen ready, so that you can take. And I would say it's good to start at the beginning, even before you have any sort of skin breakdown, such that your
Mhm.
skin stays, the integrity of your skin is not ever compromised. And I
That's
think
right.
also, if you maintain good skin, then the pain is much less.
I
So
think so too.
yeah, so I think
Yeah.
that's good. I think also it's important to have a good latch, and it's okay to pull the baby off if they're like, "Meow, meow, meow," baby's
It's
being
that.
lazy or doing a narrow latch. You're like, no, no, no,
Yes.
pull them off and try again, because that is really
Absolutely.
what's going to save your nipples also. So not
Absolutely. You got to
because
get that anti-latch. I had this whole fingernail was gone. Get that pop that latch and try again. That's
yep, and
right.
try again.
Hmm.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. I think
Yeah.
sometimes when the baby latches, you're like, oh, I don't want to pull them off, because, especially in the beginning, because it's kind of painful. So you're like, I don't want to experience that
Again.
again.
Yeah.
So you're
Baby
like
snapping
afraid,
turtle.
but then, if you readjust, often the pain will resolve. So that's something I wish someone would have told me also.
Snapback, yeah, snapback is when
Pressure bucket.
I did not. Oh, that's another thing, Leash, right? So why they tell you that when you breastfeeding, it's gonna burn because you burn all those calories.
Yeah.
That's gonna help you lose all of the baby weight. My body was like, we are very good with this weight. We are fine. We're gonna stay right here with
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had to start weight
Your
training.
metabolism has a way of just being like, yeah, all the calories you ate, we're keeping.
We're keeping them. They're staying right here with us. We're good. And you be what you want to be, how you want to look. Some people are like, I am fine as frog hair, no matter what they look like, and that's fine. I have no problem with that. I believe this is all in how you feel about yourself. So if you feel like you need to lose weight, you want to get on that for your health and your child's health. That always it comes first before everything. It's not about like trying to fit back in anything. It's about trying to make sure, okay, how long did it take your body to get to the place where it's able to produce a healthy baby? 40 weeks. I went 41. She's probably still being there if they didn't cut her out, if they had a cesarean. And it took way longer to get back to what I was like before, and I felt stronger for it, because we did a miraculous thing, creating and bringing a baby into the world. So like, be gracious with yourself, be patient with yourself, love your body, because it did an amazing thing. People hate on. I think women fall into this like really, really crazy space after they have a baby. Hormones has a lot to do with that, y'all. They are not you. You are not your hormones. You are not your hormones. Okay.
Hormones.
Let it go. Like put the good thoughts in your head. Focus on your health and of yourself and your baby, and that's all that really matters.
Yes, famous last words, boo.
I wish I had known too how much your mood is attached to your letdown, right? So, because my experiences from working mom space is when I was at work trying to pump. So I'm going from like staff meeting to now I'm going to go over here and pump. Like I've got all this stuff running through my head. How do I get my milk flowing? Learning how to create a mood. Like when you're near your baby, combination of the pheromones and your own hormones and whatever. And that like that love, it just the milk just you're good to go. And the stimulation from the latching, right? But like you're at work, it's a completely different like space. How do you start that process over? Like I had to create a whole mood and a routine. Like, I had a lock put on my office door. I had a fridge in there. I had like a whole pumping station or whatever ready to go. And so that I was able to like turn the lights down and like, you take out a picture of the baby. If you don't have the pictures there, maybe you have a certain song you play or sing to the baby, things like that, to like try and recreate that, maybe something that smells like the baby. This is all extremely emotional. Like all of that is tied together to get your milk flowing. And that's why I'm saying that stress is the anti to that. So stress will block all of that from actually happening. So if you create that space, it helps to, or even doing that in the middle of the night, say the baby's starting to sleep through the night and you're like, yes. But as a nursing mom, you're like, oh my gosh, my boobs are like conditioned to go my baby was nursing every 2 hours at least. So if they're sleeping more than that, then you're going to become engorged. And maybe I was using a pump to relieve that and also store milk in the meantime. So you want to like get your schedule together so that you're not becoming painfully engorged, or learning how to like get that letdown going so that you can avoid that or recover from it. Doing the massages in the shower sometimes if you like your ducts are clogged and things like that. Like learning how to like get your milk flowing in order to avoid blockages or infections or things like that, and then just to have a normal flow for you when you're expressing in the absence of the baby.
Yes, I totally agree with that. And that's one of the reasons why I had issues pumping at work. There was no recreation. I definitely wish somebody would have told me that also. And there were a lot of interruptions, people knocking on the door, like, it's tough in a position of leadership and people need you for things. And that's part of the reason why I just kind of gave it up, because I felt like logistically it was just going to be too difficult for me to try to do that with all the interruptions at work. So,
I really think that like it's okay to set boundaries with everything, and I'm learning how to do that in different spaces in my life now. And I wish I had also learned how to set more boundaries. Like I even had questions as crazy as like my executive director asking if we could have phone meetings while I was pumping. I'm like, that is a violation of my breastfeeding rights. Y'all have breastfeeding rights in every like state, almost everyone. Learn them so that you can take them into your work environment and see what applies to you there and what your rights are. I had a right to a space that was not a bathroom in order to pump, that was private, where I felt comfortable. Right, that part. It's become, and this was in 2014, so things have changed and grown, and it's become more widespread and more acceptable now. But I know that as the world tips backwards in America lately, you just want to learn what those are so that you can set or have boundaries firmly established, and then reaffirm your limits in those spaces, because this is food for your baby. And I had to put it in a space of like, what if I was going into the grocery store and somebody's standing in front of the formula like this? I'm gonna push them out the way. I got to feed my baby. So it's the same idea when people kind of step on, anything that's gonna inhibit or prohibit you from being able to produce or store or get home in time. I have to leave, or no, I can't do that at this time, or no, can we push the meeting back, or no, can this person stand in for me? Learning, having your answers for how to carve out that space and maintain it so that you can focus on the nutrition for your child. You have the right to feed your baby the way you want to feed your baby.
Yes, ma'am. Preach. You have to be prepared for this with the snapback. Clap.
Okay.
It's snapback or clapback? No,
It's
snapback
clap,
is
clap,
right.
clap. Senator Tammy Duckworth, when she was talking about when she brought her baby on the floor, and just normalizing that babies is a part of stuff. They're part of life, and they try to
Culture where children are kind of like
separated from us.
from everyone else. Yeah.
Yeah,
In
it's
other cultures, we see children everywhere. They're part of everything.
they are, and what that's about. So especially for us, what the baby separation is about, because they're planning for future separation. So, and we're supposed to be there for other people's children and not our own. Really, the plight of caregivers and housekeepers and nannies and all that. It's like, women are able to take a step forward because they're standing on the shoulders of women of color in order to do that, because they're giving to their children while they're not
right,
where they're taken away from their own children. And it's something that we have to normalize, like being close with our kids, not saying go sit down over there somewhere. No, you can sit right here next to me. Why you gotta be all up under me? Like, just changing the whole like narrative in our head of how we associate being with our children, because we've just been taught to divorce ourselves from them culturally in this country. So they'd be like, I miss it. I used to I called
the bob dance.
They do the bob dance. They be like, stay somewhere. Knowing that exactly how your benefit structure works. So when I gave birth to my daughter in 2014, our company did not have paid anybody leave, paternal, maternal, anything. Now I feel like it's more of a norm in a lot of major corporations and companies to incorporate that into their benefits package. But I had to make sure that my short-term disability was in place before I knew I was pregnant. Now, a lot of women don't get that time or awareness or whatever, so that they are set up correctly. And then so I was paid at like 60% of my income while I was out, but only for 8 weeks, because that's what they decided was the amount of time that I should be healing from a cesarean section. So for the remainder of the time that I was allowed to be out, it was strictly unpaid. So I didn't receive any paid maternal leave from work, and I didn't receive any disability insurance either. So that whole mommy tax that you have to go through, it's like, just revisiting those structures. I feel like a lot of people should, write to your legislators and say how much this is needed. I think they don't really feel it because of the economic status that they all are in when they're in politics, or if they're in a position where they can be a representative or a senator or whatnot. But there's a lot of working people that they say that are their constituents. Use your voice to talk about what it is that you need, because a lot of times I think people don't find out what they need until they're in that situation. And sometimes that's a little bit too late. But make a plan for that. Talk to your insurance companies. I also think that if a lot of people if you have the privilege of having HR or benefits, which is also another thing altogether.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are there other programs that we can consider? Are there addendums or supplemental insurances that I can get in order to bridge that gap? Because it is a gap and it's a purposeful gap. It's so,
Yeah,
uh,
it is totally structural discrimination against, working mothers.
mhm,
It causes financial hardships on the family when, especially in expensive cities like New York, you have one of the breadwinners who's not bringing in any income.
mhm.
So people want to go back to work as quickly as possible because they literally can't afford to be out longer than a specified period of time, but then
That's
it's to
right.
the detriment of their family.
That's
So
right.
it is very much a form of discrimination. I'm really happy that New York passed the paid family leave so that people whose employers don't offer that they at least
Mhm.
have some monies that can bridge the gap, and it's for 12 weeks, which is great.
That is super. But it wasn't something that's like, okay, this isn't a part of our diversity training. You have to be sensitive to these things. Everything else was in a diversity training.
Mhm.
Race, ageism, LGBTQ awareness, all of
It's
this
true.
stuff.
You're right.
But they don't, but the familial status part,
Can you explain what pacifier boobin is?
pacifier boobing is when you let your baby nurse, they are not drinking anything, and it is for their own comfort and self-soothing to nurse on you without actually getting any type of nutrition. They are using you.
And why is pacifier boobin bad?
Because what are you going to do? Where's your freedom? Okay. You got to put that baby down, get that baby a binky. Okay. Get that baby something except your boob so that you could go to the bathroom. I don't
Yes.
know. Sit down, have a glass of water that you need to make some more milk. Okay. Put the baby down for a
Just like
second.
take a deep breath in and
Take
out.
a deep breath. There you go.
Oh, Kelly, you're the best. You gave
Oh,
us
you
so much
are.
wonderful advice today.
Yeah.
You are a breastfeeding expert.
Well,
You're an
she's
expert
alive.
in
She's
what
alive. I have
you're
proof.
sharing. Huh?
I said I kept my child alive. She's here. And every mom that has a healthy baby, you did it.
Yes,
Okay.
you did.
You
You
did
did.
it.
You have to pat yourself on the back. And
That's
also for
right.
those moms who
Nursing
are
or
mixed
formula.
feeding. Oh yeah.
I'm sorry.
For
Yeah.
moms who are mixed feeding or moms
Hmm.
who are also, feel like they're not producing enough, you're
That's
also
right.
doing amazing. So
That's
just
right.
know though that, you give it a valiant effort, you do the best you can, and that's all you can do, right?
That's right. That's right.
Forgive yourself for any shortcomings, any perceived shortcomings that you may have.
That's right. Because like you said, it's perception.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're doing great. And everyone's journey is completely unique. Get into your uniqueness.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Well, thank you so much, my dear. Thank you all for joining us. But thank you, girl.
Yes.
You're the best. And thank
Thank
you
you for letting me tell
for
my story and share.
the little one's joining. Now her eyes are open. You missed the
Oh,
whole interview.
baby.